Hi everyone. So today I am going to discuss about alkaloid. So this alkaloid chapter is divided into different parts, and today I am going to discuss the alkaloid part 1. So in this chapter you will going to learn about the what is alkaloid, their definition, classification, their properties, and how you can identify the alkaloidal compounds present in plant extract. So let us start. So the term alkaloids was coined by Major, a German pharmacist in the year 1819. So he was the first person to coin the term alkaloids. And this alkaloid has been used by human being or this mankind for different purposes, like for as poisons, as medicine, poultice, tea, etc. So the French chemist Derosny in the year 1803 for the first time isolated narcotin. And in the same year, the morphine was also isolated from the opium by Schertner. So after this one, several research were done and different scientists they have isolated different alkaloid from different species. For examples, this strychnine in 1817, then imetin in 1817, then brucin 1819, piperine 1819, caffeine 1819, quinine 1820, colchicine 1820, and quinine 1826. And these are the compounds isolated by the different scientists from the different species. So this quinine, this alkaloid, for this alkaloid, the first structure was established, and later on it has been synthesized by the different scientists. So now let us see what is the definition. We have to know about the definition also. Okay, so what is called alkaloids? What are the compounds which you can be called as alkaloid? So this alkaloid, that word actually derived from the word alkali-like. So hence it resembles the different characteristics of complex amine. So now what is the definition? So these alkaloids are the organic compounds of natural origins. So these alkaloids are organic compounds that can be found in plant, animal, bacteria, fungi. And also it can be synthesized. But these alkaloids are actually basic in nature, and they contain, generally it contains one or more nitrogen atom, normally of heterocyclic nature. Okay, so it will have at least one or more nitrogen generally. So sometimes you can see that nitrogen may be present outside the heterocyclic rings, which we'll see on later on when we go for the study of different class of alkaloid. Okay, so now I think you have understood what is alkaloid. Alkaloid means these are the organic compounds that can be found in the nature from the plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria. And it can be synthesized, but it should contain, generally it should contain one or more nitrogen, and that nitrogen should be in heterocyclic ring. Okay, so why it is basic, this nitrogen? I mean, alkaloids are basic because it contains nitrogen, and nitrogen is having lone pair of electron. So because of this lone pair of electron, it is showing its basic characteristics. So let us see now the classification of alkaloid. So this alkaloid can be classified into different types on the basis of whether this alkaloid is derived from amino acid or whether this nitrogen is present in the heterocyclic ring or it outside, or sometimes these alkaloids may not be derived from amino acid, but these alkaloids, these compounds going to say the uh, going to show the different characteristics or different qualitative test of alkaloids, but they are not derived from amino acid. So let us see first. So first alkaloid, it can be classified as true alkaloid. Next one is protoalkaloid, and third type is pseudoalkaloid. So how these alkaloids are differentiated? Okay, now we'll see the basic property of true alkaloid, then we'll see the basic property of protoalkaloid, then we'll see the basic property of pseudoalkaloid. So now let us see about the true alkaloid. So these true alkaloids are basically derived from amino acids. And in these true alkaloids, the nitrogens are present in heterocyclic ring. So examples of such types of alkaloids are just like atropine, nicotine, and morphine. So you can see from the structure this pyridine. Okay, pyridine is also a true alkaloid. So this nitrogen is present in the heterocyclic ring. So these are only the few examples. There are so many compounds which are falls under true alkaloids. So you can study the different books, and in the different books you can find the different examples also. Next, let us see about the protoalkaloids. So these protoalkaloids, these are also derived from amino acids, but the nitrogen are not present in heterocyclic ring. Examples of such kind of alkaloids are just like mescaline, adrenaline, and ephedrine. So here you can see the structure of mescaline. So here you can see the nitrogen. So nitrogen is not present in the heterocyclic ring. So let us see about the pseudoalkaloid. So these are not derived from this amino acid. You should be very clear that the pseudoalkaloid. So if someone asks what is pseudoalkaloid, then you have to clearly say that these are not derived from the amino acid. So even though this is going to show you some qualitative test of alkaloids, but these are not derived from amino acids. So examples of such type of alkaloids are just like caffeine, theobromine, theocrine, and theophylline. So these are some examples of these pseudoalkaloids. So dear student, I think now it is clear to you what is true alkaloid, what is protoalkaloid, and what is pseudoalkaloid. Now you can differentiate it very easily. So later on, we'll study about what are the drugs which are falls under this true alkaloid, what are the drugs which are falls under this protoalkaloid and pseudoalkaloid. We'll see later on in alkaloid receptors. So the pseudoalkaloids you can see the examples of this is the structure. Okay, this is the caffeine. So now let us see about the different properties of alkaloids. So you should know the properties also, because if you know the properties of alkaloid, then it will be very easy for you to identify the alkaloids. Okay, what are the basic properties, and it will help you in your extraction process as well as isolation of alkaloid. So how you will proceed, in which solvent this is soluble and in which solvent it is not soluble, and which solvent you will use for the isolation of alkaloids. So these things you have to be very much clear about their solubility, their properties, etc. Okay. So now let us see the basic properties. So now, as you know, in previous slide, we have described about alkaloids are basic in nature. Okay. So you should know that these are basic in nature. Even though these are basic in nature, but some alkaloids are there which are amphoteric, just like theobromine, theophylline. And another thing is that these alkaloids are colorless. Basically, these alkaloids are colorless. But some examples are there in which these alkaloids are color compound. Just like you can see, the berberine is yellow color, sanguinarine is orange in color. So these are the exceptional. You have to know it, because sometimes in the exams that like just like GPAT and other exams, they used to ask question from this portion. Then, as you know, these alkaloids are poorly soluble in water, but some alkaloids are there which are slightly soluble in water, just like caffeine, cocaine, codeine, nicotine. So these are slightly soluble in water. Next, their solubility. So these alkaloids are soluble in diethyl ether, chloroform, and dichloroethanes. Okay, water as we have seen here. Okay, so these alkaloids are actually crystalline in solid. So some alkaloid you can see that these alkaloids are liquid in nature, and these are also volatile. So here you see these oxygen-free alkaloids such as nicotine, conine, or conine. These are volatile, colorless, oily liquids. So sometimes in your exam they can ask you give an examples of oxygen-free alkaloids. So in that time you have to give the examples of nicotine and conine. Okay, so I hope you have understand this the properties of alkaloids. Okay, so you have to be very much clear about the properties of alkaloids. Okay, so then only you can isolate the alkaloidal compounds, means which solvent you will use for the isolation of alkaloids. Okay, and as well as here you can see that alkaloids and acid, they will form salt. Okay, so these true alkaloids basically are found in the plant as a salt of organic acids, just like salt of meconic acid, oxalic acid. Okay, so you can find this alkaloid as a salt of organic acid. Now let us see the chemical test of this alkaloid. How you will identify whether in your sample alkaloid is present or not. Okay, so there are different tests, qualitative tests to identify the alkaloidal presence in your crude extract. Okay, so basically I used to teach my student and give them formula. One of the most important formula is MDH and W. MDH means you will know the this is the one of the spice name. Okay, the MDH, that owner is having Wagner. So if you remember this formula, then you won't forget in your whole life, the chemical test of this alkaloid. Suppose M means Mayer test, D means Dragon-Drop, H means Hagar test, and W means Wagner test. So these are the different tests you need to perform for identification of or to identify the alkaloids. So now these are the general tests for alkaloids. Okay, so in the later chapter, I will explain about some specific tests to identify some specific alkaloids in the plant. Okay, so that in that just like for the tropane alkaloid, you have to perform different tests, and other tests are also there. So we will discuss in later classes. Okay, so now we'll study the basic chemical test for identification of alkaloids. First one is Mayer test. So first of all, you have to know the test name, then what is the composition of this reagent. So sometimes in your GPAT exam, they used to ask the composition of reagent. Then observation you can, what type of observation you can determine while doing the experiments, and how what will be the interference, just like so. Mayer reagents, it is composed of potassium mercury iodide solution, and when you will do the test, when you perform the test, it will give cream color precipitate. So if while performing the chemical test for your alkaloids, Mayer test, if it gives cream color precipitate, then you can say that it is having alkaloid in your extract. So sometimes it may not give the Mayer test. Sometimes you need to perform drag-and-drop test. So what is the composition of drag-and-drop test? Reagents. So this is potassium bismuth iodide solution. So drag-and-drop reagent is composed of potassium bismuth iodide. So when you perform the chemical test using these reagents, then it will give reddish brown color precipitate. So if your samples give this reddish brown color precipitate, then you can confirm that, or you can uh, imagine that alkaloid may be present. Then another test is Wagner test. So Wagner reagent composition, you have to first know it. What is the composition of Wagner reagents? So iodine, potassium, iodide solution. So this Wagner reagent is composed of iodine, potassium, iodide solution. So when you will perform the test, this Wagner test, then if your extract will give this reddish brown precipitate, then you can say that alkaloid may be present. And another test is Hagar test. So Hagar reagent. So Hagar reagent is nothing but it is a saturated solution of picric acid. So it is composed of saturated solution of picric acid. So it will give you yellow precipitate. Okay. So hope you have understand this, and we'll discuss in another chapter some more details about how to isolate the alkaloids and what are the classification of alkaloids. Again, we will go. Then how you can extract the alkaloids from the plants. Okay. So if you like my channel, please subscribe my channel and comment it whether you like it, whether you may not like it. So anything you can comment it, that will help me to create more PPT, so that I can create some more PPT which will be helpful for you. Thank you.